All right, some things to cover. We're gonna do the Racetronix fuel wiring harness. My video will be a little bit different than another one you may see on YouTube. I think I've only seen one other one on YouTube, but the guy that I watched did not have a booster pump in his car, and I do. Another thing I want to cover with this install is that I relocated my fuel relay out of the fuse box, just like a lot of people have on YouTube, and that did not solve my Corvette shutoff problem. We relocated the fuel relay, the car shut down, and it was down for like 3 to 5 weeks, and then it just miraculously turned back on again. So I said, you know what, I'm just getting a Racetronix harness. From what I understand with the booster pump, you are feeding way too much voltage through the stock wiring for your stock fuel pump from the relay to the back of the car. So you get bigger gauge wire with the Racetronix harness, and we moved the booster pump from here all the way to the back fender well, which it has less wire to feed all that voltage through, and will be cooler as a booster pump versus in a hot engine bay. So yeah, you still need to run your fuel relay. It stays in place. We actually ended up twisting the wires back. We used a wire connector to reconnect the power for the relay back to the actual fuel pump, because we snipped out my booster pump, which basically right straight down in here is where your booster pump would have wired in. You just snip the power wire and you wire it into the stock wiring from the relay back to the fuel pump. So I wanted to cover that really quick before we get into the install. So yeah, the relay stays put. You end up using the actual signal and the harness back there from the fuel relay in the Racetronix harness. When I pulled out my twin plug, I was a little confused because I hadn't seen anybody cover in depth the fact that you'll use the plug for the power harness on the alternator side for Racetronix, and you also use the other plug back there. Once you've unplugged it from the fuel pump, you actually still use the signal wire from the car's OEM wiring setup. So let's go ahead and get into it. The video will be kind of funny just because we kind of shot it on the fly, but I did a lot of research in order to put the booster pump on properly, and you probably won't see the finished product of all the zip tying and everything once it was nice and clean and tucked out of the way. I mean, we put all the relays, the booster pump and everything, we literally mounted them to the actual fender well wall and then zip tied all the wires out of the way before we put my little sound deadening pillow bag back in and put it all back together. But so far running great, haven't had any issues. So now I'm confident I can go to Winn-Dixie and back or wherever without the car shutting off at whatever point, because it's done that like 5 times now. It's literally cost me like $180 in tows. And that's not even the time that I flat towed it myself with my truck and a strap from the front end of the car over to my shop. Yes. The Racetronix harness. Power from the rocker into the booster pump. We are now heat shrinking the wire feeds because there is a boost, a poop boost plug.
A poop.
A poop.
You called it a poop earlier.
Boost plug.
It's a poop.
This is where the poop boost plug was. We snipped it out. These are your innings. We don't have any legitness like this. So we are wiring in the feed and the output power to our pump connectivities. And this is heat shrinkable wire connectors from the O'Reilly's Auto Parts. O'Reilly's. But I want to run my booster pump. It's also boost sourced, so we have a little brown wire we're going to have to snake from all the way up front, which is going to really suck because feeding this wire through the rocker panel was just a whole nother nightmare. Yep. I got to say, that flame on camera is mighty satisfying.
It's very hot. Don't be a bitch, Kevin. Just do it.
I swear, you do the lighter the worse. Look, it's only your thumb, you poor guy.
Owie. Owie.
He's okay, folks. Don't try this at home. Do it at a shop. So it's gotten a little dark. We wanted to make sure we had everything done right. This is your feed line for the beginning, basically, of the Racetronix harness. Fed it down along here. On the bottom of the car, you can actually look up and you can see the bottom of this tank. So then, it was not easy, but I fished along the rocker panel all the way down. And being the first set of wiring was the feed. And then the feed goes into the relay. Hold on. And then the feed goes into the relay. That red one is your feed line. That's the alternator straight to the relay. And then the rest of the harness will come out, and that becomes your plugs for your fuel pump.
Fancy brown wire, sure.
Fancy ground wire. Now we're going to run my switch.
It's brown.
It's brown. Okay. On your harness for your relay setup, you actually have boost pump plugs that are in here. We snipped those off and wired in the power feed for the booster pump, which is now mounted up here. That's my booster pump screwed in all nice, relay screwed in all nice. We got the relay actually grounded out with the rest of the grounds.
Call the fuse a relay?
Yeah, I said it's grounded out. I didn't call it ground. No.
You got it.
You're really messing up my on-screen presence. It's okay. Don't worry about him. He's
But that for real was a fuse at first, and then a relay.
Oh yeah, there was a fuse. There's a fuse up front, but it's not back here.
That's a fuse.
What? Oh yeah, that's a fuse for the booster pump. That's not for the Racetronix setup I'm covering.
Right.
Anyway, we wired in the feed and the return.
Don't call it a relay.
The orange goes into whatever. The orange goes into the harness for my plugs for my fuel pump, and then this brown wire was for basically my activator.
Cut.
You wanna? No, we'll keep. That sounds funny.
You need to take 2 on this one, bro.
What do you mean? Oh, you think it's just too?
Yeah.
All right, we'll give him a rerun. This went to my Hobbs switch, which I didn't even know I had until he pointed it out. We're gonna give him some credit. That's who pointed out the Hobbs switch. So now the only annoying thing is I have to refeed the connecting wires for the Hobbs switch to here because it's boost activated. I have no idea what boost it's on, but as far as the activation. But yeah, basically we'll do that, and then we'll do a second check for Kevin. I'm crimping up some Mo wire for my Hobbs switch. A little mushroom looking thingy. It's a Hobbs switch. Tells the booster pump when to kick on. It's in the voltage to start to pound the boost. He's going to do that clearly over my $30,000 paint job. No big deal. No big deal at all. And then he actually watched me. Did you put your snake up already?
Yeah.
Aw. He watched me feed the power wire from the alternator all the way manually myself that way with like this thing is what I grabbed it with. It was basically the worst, but it's worth it for the right reasons because this should solve my Corvette shutoff issue because relocating your relay does not, at least for the booster pump. So he is mating that wire back there, which is effectively now this wire here, which will connect to my booster pump's signal wire for my boost switch. And yeah, we'll walk you through all this here in a second.
It takes forever.
It's worth it though. I'm pretty sure. It looks like you're lighting my rocker panel on fire.
On fire.
On fire.
Ow. Ow. Ow.
Oh no, not right now. The bug guy. Oh, come on.
About damn time.
About damn time. He was here the last time I drove out here. What do you mean? He was here like 2 weeks ago.
Did you see all the bugs flying around? Fuck.
Yeah, it's true. He does suck
He
his
must have
job.
been pushing them this way for a hot minute. They're like, oh,
Try to give you the Coronas. Yeah, you love it when I record it. Get the existing battery wire for the fuel pump reconnected. I'll give you a short rundown. This is the beginning of your harness from Racetronix. You'll bolt it under the alternator from the back side. I have mine fished in like so. I don't know where Kevin put my... Where'd you put my fuse? You just got it tucked away right here. I'll probably mount that later. That'll split off and feeds the rest, which I have snaked down. The windshield washer fluid canister goes straight down. You will be able to grab it in the bottom side of your rocker panel. You will feed it all the way down the rocker panel. And then your feed will come out right here. This is my feed line. Battery feed line will go up to the massive relay, which we have with all the grounds. It's attached to the ground that was already on the car. So we have the booster pump ground, the actual Racetronix ground, and that relay all bolted to the ground that was already on the car. And then from there, your wiring harness will come out. It will split right here. That's where your booster pump plugs are if you want to run a booster pump in translation. So we ran the feed line, which is the red wire for my booster pump is the feed that splices in there. And then the orange wire off of my booster pump feeds actually to the fuel pump connections right there. And then this is my fuse for my booster pump that's in line with the feed. That is not in line with the external coming out to the actual lines for the fuel pump connectors. So this is the feed line, feed power for the booster pump. Power comes out of the orange and then goes into the connectors. We also have the red and yellow wires from my Hobbs switch, so that my booster pump only activates off like 3 pounds of boost, I think. It's not always on. So we snaked that up as well, the same route that the battery wire from the alternator came to. And this is just all in a culmination of the relay setup from the alternator. The alternator wire comes straight up from up front into the relay, and then the relay feeds out to the harness that goes to the fuel pump connectors, and then in between the fuel pump connectors and the relay, you have your booster pump plugs that we snipped and went ahead and wired in my ECS booster pump, because I have an ECS 1500 Novi 1500 kit. I said 1500 twice. Huh? Oh, wow. Did you just nudge me? All right. Thank God. That's a RACETRONIX harness with a booster pump installed. Yay! We did it! You want to film knuckle bump? A little knuckle bump? Boop! And again, battery feed wire from alternator up to the relay. From the relay comes your harness to there. You wire in your booster pump right here. There were 2 plugs that were connected together. We snipped those out and manually wired in our booster pump. That's the fuse for the booster pump. And everything just started up. I'm not going to snip all these zip ties. I'm going to leave them. Kind of like how they build like a little wall for the sound deadening to go back in. Sound deadening to go back in. Now, I covered this several times just because I've done Learn It videos and videos to guide me along doing the work myself, and I find myself pausing, going back, rewinding a lot in between the process. So I tried to explain it a few different times so that if you are watching it and trying to learn as you go, at least there's like 3 different rundowns of how we did it. And it was very hard to get my camera in the wheel well without holding it like straight up and down Snapchat style. So I actually rotated my video feed so that you could get a full picture regardless of what angle it was at. So I hope this helps out. I have not seen this video on you. I've seen a RACETRONIX wiring harness video, but they don't really break it down as far as like all the minute details and how to do it with the booster pump. But again, when I pulled my kit out of the box, I never really considered why you would use 2 plugs if you're just unplugging the fuel pump from the harness. But you'll end up using both your feed plug and your receiver plug from your fuel pump, because you need the signal for the fuel pump from the car itself, and then you're feeding the fuel pump with your RACETRONIX wiring harness. And having a booster pump and a stock pump, I did not want to not run the booster pump, because we know that the alternator only feeds in like 15 volts of power, and we would like some more. I believe ECS feeds out like 17 volts or a little bit more under boost, so it just didn't make much sense to have an ECS booster pump as hardware and not use it and just eliminate it altogether, especially because I'm running the big powers. So, you know, right now we're at like 550. Eventually with meth and a cam, I would like to see upwards of, a little upwards of 800. But I hope this helped out. If you have any questions, comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. If you've made it this far, I will leave you with an outro and some music so you can see all the other stuff that we have on the channel, or at least a small amount of stuff like the RX-7 V8 Turbo and probably the ZX-14 rip from the race video for the Turbo V-Rod. So we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe to help us out. It really helps to get our channel out there, and we grow every day. So, bye-bye.